Hi friends, welcome to my Bamboo's Biogenius channel. Today we will discuss about modern theory of evolution. This theory is very important for UG and PG students. It is also important for NEET aspirants. So stay with me for modern theory of evolution. Now when we talk about modern synthetic theory, first question that comes in our mind is that why modern synthetic theory is necessary. See, when we have studied the Darwin's theory of evolution, we know that Darwin's theory of evolution was not foolproof. Darwin was unable to explain some things in his theory. For example, he was not aware of how variation arrives, how variations are transmitted from one generation to another. So these are some of the drawbacks of Darwin's theory of evolution. Then the scientist, or we can say the evolutionist, which came after Darwin, they also tried to explain evolution by a single factor. For example, Hugo de Veris, he tried to explain evolution or a mechanism of evolution by mutation only, or the Moritz Wagner, he also tried to explain evolution by isolation or geographical isolation. That means most of the scientists they tried to explain the evolution by only a single factor. But as the science advanced, or new developments that took place during 1930s to 1950s, it became necessary that, or it became known to the different scientists that a single factor hypothesis to explain evolution is not sufficient. There are number of factors that are involved in evolving a species, and that's why they have devised a theory, or they have combined all these factors which are responsible for evolution into a one theory, and now it is called as a modern synthetic theory. So this is how that modern synthetic theory that was proposed. Now, before explaining modern synthetic theory, it becomes necessary that we should learn about the scientist who first gave these single factors or tried to explain evolution with the single factors. The first one was Moritz Wagner, who emphasized that the geographical isolation is the mechanism which is very important in explaining evolution. He even opposed natural selection over this geographical isolation. He communicated with the Darwin also, but Darwin was skeptical about the role of geographical isolation in evolution. Even Darwin experienced the role of geographical isolation when he saw the Galapagos Islands, but still he was not of the opinion that geographical isolation is the mechanism of evolution. He emphasized the role of natural selection only. The contemporary scientists of Wagner, they are also skeptical about the role of geographical isolation because Mr. Wagner added some Lamarckian principles in its geographical isolation theory, and because of that, they were opposing Moritz Wagner. But later on, modern evolutionists like Ernest Mayr, Jerry Cohen, they acknowledged the role of the isolation in evolution, and they recognized Maurice Wagner as a pioneer for this idea. Now, the next scientist was John Gregor Mendel. We know that he is famous for his laws on inheritance, but at that time, Darwin was unaware of these laws of inheritance, and he was unable to explain how the variations arise, how these variations are transferred from one generation to another. All these questions were answered by Mendel's laws of inheritance, and these laws were presented, or these laws were explained in 1865 paper of Mendel. But unfortunately, these laws of inheritance, or these papers, or these findings were went unnoticed, and again in 1900 these laws were rediscovered. The Mendel was the first scientist who showed that there is a presence of a physical basis of inheritance. He called it as factors. Now we call it as genes. So Mendel was able to explain origin and inheritance of variation with the help of these laws. So this is how that Mendel indirectly contributed in modern synthetic theory. Then the another scientist who gave the theory of continuity of germplasm, he was August Weismann. He was a evolutionary biologist and known for his germplasm theory. According to this germplasm theory, inheritance takes place with the help of only germ cells, and somatic cells do not take part in any kind of inheritance. So this theory became the basis to reject the Lamarck's theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Because according to Lamarck, whatever the structures that are acquired by an organism, that structures were seen in the next generation. But whatever the structures that are acquired were somatic, and according to this germplasm theory, inheritance is dependent upon the germ cells and not on the somatic cells. So this is how August Weismann rejected the theory of Lamarck. According to Ernest Mayr, the August Weismann was the greatest biologist after Darwin, but his ideas were not expressed in the same way today. Now, the another scientist, Hugo de Vries, is also known for his single factor hypothesis, which explained the evolution. That single factor here was a mutation. And Hugo de Vries is famous for mutation theory of evolution. According to him, sudden changes in the phenotype that are responsible for evolution, and these sudden changes are nothing but the mutations. And he is of the opinion that these mutations are random and directionless. They don't have any kind of a direction, that these mutations may be positive, may be neutral, or may be negative. Darwin was aware of these mutations or a sudden changes in the phenotype because he was indulged in breeding of pigeons. He was also indulged in breeding of certain plant varieties also. So he is of the opinion, or he named it as a bird variations, or he also named it as a sports. But he did not pay attention to these sudden changes. He merely named it as a sports. But Hugo de Vries, he stated that or he proposed that these mutations are responsible for evolution, and these mutations are, with the help of these mutations, the whatever the evolution is a saltatory and not gradual. Saltatory means, what do you mean by saltatory? Saltatory means having a leap, or taking a leap, taking a jump. Saltus means a leap. So it is, evolution is like a taking jump. So it is a discontinuous, and it is not gradual as suggested by Darwin. So this is about the mutation theory of evolution. The period in which Darwin was there, that period is considered as a Darwinism, which is influenced by these three scientists, that is Lamarck, Darwin, and Wallace. Why Lamarck is considered in this period, that is because some Lamarckian ideas are accepted by Darwin in his books, and that's why this period is influenced by the Lamarck, Darwin, and Wallace. So this period is called as a Darwinism. Now this term Neo-Darwinism is coined by G.J. Romanes. The meaning of this term is that it is an expanded theory of a Darwin. Now, although Wallace popularized the term Darwinism, he accepted the conclusions of Weizmann and enriched the Darwin's concept of evolution. And he accepted that variations are added by sexual reproduction and not by inheritance of acquired characters. So, this is how he removed the Lamarckian principles from Darwinism, and that's why it is called as a Neo-Darwinism. Now, after that, what happened that evolutionary biologists were divided into two camps. One camp is called as a reductionist, and another camp is called as a naturalists. Reductionists were geneticists and mathematic modelers. They were of the opinion that the mechanism of evolution is due to irreversible changes of genetic compositions of populations, and they gave importance to genotype. Whereas naturalists were taxonomists and paleontologists. They were of the opinion that the evolution takes place by gradual descent with a modification, and they gave importance to phenotype. So this is how that the two camps were created. Now these two camps were brought together by a famous scientist. His name was Theodosius Dobzhansky. He was a naturalist and taxonomist. He trained under T.H. Morgan, and he acted like a catalyst and brought together these two camps and devised a theory that is called as a synthetic theory of evolution. Now, this synthetic theory of evolution was based on current understanding of the paleontology, genetics, population genetics, developmental biology, molecular biology, and phylogenetics. Now, the name given to this theory is a synthetic theory of evolution, that is based on a book written by Julian Huxley, Evolution, a Modern Synthesis. So this is how that this particular synthetic theory of evolution was synthesized. These were the scientists who pioneered the idea of a formation of a modern synthetic theory. This theory is depend upon, or it is derived from these six books. These six authors were considered as architects of modern synthetic theory. Each author has contributed a lot in bringing this particular theory into light. Now we will discuss about the modern synthetic theory. These are some important points that are discussed while explaining modern synthetic theory. First one is the introduction of a variation. Introduction means addition of a variation, and there are two factors by which variations can be added. One is a major factor and another is the interrelated accessory factors. Now, this interrelated accessory factor is actually meant for, or we can say that it explains how that a certain kinds of new combination of alleles are formed, or how that a particular kind of allele is lost from the uh, population, and uh, how that these alleles are deleted from the population. So all these kind of mixed kind of phenomenon that are discussed in these accessory factors. Then we know that Darwin's natural selection, that too here is also important in modern synthetic theory. Then how the characters are transferred from one generation to another, that is point C. Heredity, that is also included in modern synthetic theory. And then the last one, last but one is isolation. Isolation, geographical isolation or reproductive isolation is also discussed in a modern synthetic theory. And the speciation, the last topic of this, how the speciation that give rise to a new species, and how that particular population evolves in a particular direction, that is all discussed in a modern synthetic theory, or explained in a modern synthetic theory. Now, according to modern synthetic theory, definition of evolution is that it is the change in the allelic frequency of the population that leads to evolution. So, first of all, we will see that what is allelic frequency. You know that what is allele. For example, if we take this particular, we will take an imaginary example. Here, the 10 individuals of a particular species are there. Now, why these rings are another of another color? That is, it suggests that the green colored rings or green colored individuals, they are dominant in the population as compared to these two. Now, for example, if this is an individual and these are the two chromosomes of this individual. So imagine that this individual contains only two chromosomes. Now, how these two chromosomes came into this particular individual? It is came from its parents. One contributed by the female and one contributed by the male. Now, if we consider a single gene, for example, if this gene is located in this particular region of the chromosome, then this particular region of the chromosome is called as a locus. Now, this particular gene is present on this particular region. Now, as these chromosomes are homologous, same in size, and they are, we can say that this particular gene that is responsible for a particular kind of a protein, or synthesizing a particular kind of a protein. So this protein, we will name it as a protein A. So this is the one individual. Then another individual, this one, it will have again the same as the species is same, so chromosome number will remain same. And here you will find that on this same locus as that of this, same protein will be encoded by these particular genes. But here remember that this is a wild type allele or wild type gene, and its another form is this one and this one. So here you will find that in this population you will find three types of alleles. And as we know that alleles are related with each other as a dominant and recessive, here this particular allele is a dominant, and that's why it will produce its protein A dash. Now, This particular protein is again, this particular region is showing a red color, and that means a different type of allele. Now here another individual, this one, it will be like this, again these same chromosomes, then same locus, but on these same locus this particular allele is coding for a different type of protein, that is protein A star. Now you can see here all these individuals, they are meant for a particular kind of a protein, but these proteins, when these proteins are synthesized, these proteins will show a kind of a minor variation. So this is how that these variations are there, because this particular kind of gene, that is green gene, that is converted into uh, blue or a red colored gene. So this is how that the green is more dominant than this one, green, blue, and this blue is more dominant than this one. So red colored gene is we can say that it is more it is recessive, so it is coding for a protein 8 star. So this is how that particular kind of or in a particular kind of organisms these alleles are present. Now see that if we take only the alleles, we will find that there are only three allelic types are present in the population: this one and this one. Now remember that when we talk about a frequency, frequency means what? How many times that particular allele is represented in a population. Now see here, this particular allele will be present on 8 individuals chromosomes. Two individuals, sorry, two chromosomes in per individual means how many alleles will be there? 16 alleles will be there in 8 individuals, and it will be out of 20. So 16 out of 20 is the frequency of this particular dominant allele. Then if we consider this one, we have seen that this one blue colored allele, it will have a frequency of 1 out of 20. And if we see the recessive allele or red allele, you will find that it has a frequency of 3 out of 20, because here the recessive homozygous condition was there in this particular individual, so that's why it is represented by two alleles, or two alleles are present on the both of the chromosomes, so that's why out of 20 you will get 3 out of 20. So this is the allelic frequency. Now imagine that this particular individual that dies, or it dies due to some disease or something like that. So what will happen? The allelic frequency of this particular population will change. So dominant individual will be added, and what will be the allelic frequency of this red gene? You can see here 1 out of 20, and it will remain as it is for a blue kind of a gene. And here it will change, that means a dominant allele will be now 18 out of 20, because one individual is added here which is having the dominant allele. So this is how that the frequency of alleles that changes. Now we will discuss about the polymorphism in individuals. See here, as I have told you that this particular gene, green gene, is a dominant or a wild type gene. Why it is called as a dominant or a wild type gene? That is because this particular gene is present in the most of the individuals of the population, and that's why it is called as a dominant gene. Now why we see such a type of individuals which are having this particular alternative forms of a gene? So I have told you that, or we know that the alternative form of a gene is called as allele. So this particular gene, green gene, is converted into blue or a red gene. That is because of that may be because of the mutation or genetic recombination. So this particular gene has a several alternative forms, and we call it as a alleles. And these alleles are related with each other as a dominant and recessive. We have seen that this particular red gene is recessive to these two. This particular blue gene is recessive to green gene, like that. So these individuals, or these individual genes, they are responsible for formation of a protein A. Now, this protein A in a different alleles, they produce the same protein A, which has the same function, but with a minor variation. So here a protein A is synthesized, here a protein A dash is synthesized, here a protein A star is synthesized. But all these proteins, they perform the same function. So this is known as a polymorphism, or we can say that in a population, heterozygosity is there. Or what do you mean by heterozygosity? You can see here the this is the individual, and this individual is having two chromosomes, and on each chromosome the same dominant gene is there. So this is a homozygous. That means in this particular individual, for this particular locus, 0% variability is there. Now consider this example here. You will find that on one chromosome wild type allele is there, wild type gene is there, and on other chromosome a recessive allele is there. But the protein is produced by this particular dominant allele or a dominant gene. Now this is known as a heterozygosity. That it has been found that 5 out of 100 individuals, they show uh, the variability or heterozygosity. So this is known as a heterozygosity. Now, this heterozygosity is present in vertebrates, but in case of invertebrates, this heterozygosity is much more than the vertebrates. It is up to, it has been found that in case of Drosophila, the 15% variability is there. In case of plants, it is more than 8% variability is there, in which uh, these particular plants propagate by the outbreeding. So this is how that heterozygosity is there, and this is the importance of having different types of alleles in a population. More the heterozygosity, more will be the survival of that particular population, or that population is fit for the survival. Now we will discuss about the evolution, how that according to this modern synthetic theory evolution occurs. First point is addition of variation in a population. So as Darwin said that variations are very important in evolution. We know that variations are like a fuel for evolution. So how these variations are added in a population? There are two factors that adds variation in a population: major factors and some accessory factors. So first of all, we will discuss about the major factors. First major factor is a mutation. Second major factor is a numerical and structural anomalies in a chromosome. Third factor is called as a recombination of a chromosomes. So all these three factors, these are considered as a major factors, and they are responsible for addition of variation in a population. So we will discuss one by one. The first point is a mutation. Mutations are nothing but the sudden changes that occur in a DNA, and these sudden changes are inheritable. Mutations are very rare in natural populations, and we know that the mutations are of two types, that is somatic mutations and germinal mutations. The somatic mutations that occur during the development of an individual, these somatic mutations are not inherited, but the mutations that occur in a germinal tissue, that are mostly inherited. So mutations can be categorized into three categories. First one is called as lethal mutations. The mutations which occur in an organism that are very detrimental to that organism, lethal to that organism. The mutation, such lethal mutations, they will kill that particular individual. So such a mutations which kill that particular animal or organism, that will not be inherited, or that will not be passed on to the next generation. Why? That is because the organism which is having such a lethal mutation, it will not reach up to the reproductive age, and that's why these particular mutations will not be passed on to next generation. So this is how the lethal mutations are removed from the um, population. But neutral mutations, what do you mean by neutral mutations? The second category is the neutral mutations. Neutral mutations are the mutations which do not affect any kind of ill effect, or do not show any kind of effect on a individual. So such a neutral mutations can be passed on to a next generation. Similarly, some beneficial mutations. Third category is the beneficial mutations. Some beneficial mutations are also there. These beneficial mutations that help in the life of that particular individual. So such mutations are also passed on to the next generation. So this is how that mutations are categorized into lethal mutation, neutral mutation, and beneficial mutations. Now, the next factor that is responsible for addition of variation in a population is the numerical and structural anomaly in a chromosome. First of all, we will discuss about the numerical changes in a chromosome. Numerical changes in a chromosome means a change in the number of set of chromosomes. For example, in case of most of the plants, there is a more than 2n number of sets of chromosomes. So such a kind of a plants are called as a polyploid plants. For example, wheat, most of the grasses, then strawberry, banana, pea, all these are the plants that show the polyploidy. Although this polyploidy is common in case of plants, but it is very rare in case of animals. Most of the lower animals that shows polyploidy, but this is the first mammal in which Viscaza rat, in which the polyploidy is same. 4n number of chromosomes are present in this Viscaza rat mammal. Then you must have heard about the fusion of two chromosomes and formation of chromosome number 2 in case of humans. So it has been suggested that the initially the ancestors of humans and apes have 48 chromosomes, but humans are formed by the fusion of two chromosomes, and that's why now humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes and apes have 24 pairs of chromosomes. Then structural changes in a chromosomes. Deletion, insertion, duplication, inversion of a segments of a chromosome, that also brings about the changes in a allelic frequency, and these changes in allelic frequency are responsible for addition of variation in a population. Now the third factor is a recombination of chromosomes. We know that during sexual reproduction, gametes are formed, and when these gametes are forming, a very peculiar phenomenon that takes place, that is known as a crossing over. What do you mean by crossing over? In case of a crossing over, the homologous chromosomes, they arrange side by side and they exchange a segment of a chromosome with each other. Now, as the segment of a chromosome is passed on to the neighboring homologous chromosome, along with that, alleles are also passed on to that particular chromosome. So this is how that allelic exchange in between the homologous chromosomes that takes place. This results in a new combination of alleles, or there may be chances of alterations in alleles. Now, because of that, the change in allelic frequency that takes place, and this results in a introduction of addition of variation in a population. Now, apart from these factors or major factors that are responsible for addition of variation in a population, some interrelated accessory factors that are also responsible for change in the allelic frequency or deletion of certain kinds of variation from a population. Now, that may be because of the extinction, or that may be because of the prevention of breeding in between the populations. So, these are the factors. These are responsible for the change in the allelic frequency of the population. And this change in allelic frequency of the population can also leads to evolution. So these are hybridization, genetic drift, migration, or we can say that a gene flow, and non-random mating. All these kind of accessory factors that are responsible for bringing about the change in the allelic frequency of the population. So let us see one by one. The first one is a hybridization. Hybridization means what? It is a mating of two closely related species is called as a hybridization. This hybridization is mostly seen in case of plants as compared to animals. In case of animals also, for example, in case of a teal, two different species of teals, they mate with each other to produce a hybrid teal, and it has a different combination of genes, or we can say the alleles. So this is how that alleles, that because of the hybridization, the alleles that may change. In case of plants also, you can see here allostriata and allomaculata that give rise to hybrid individual in case of plants. So this is how that the gene frequency of a population can be changed with the help of hybridization. Now, another very peculiar mechanism that was discovered by Sewall Wright, and this is known as a genetic drift. Now, this genetic drift means what? Drift means to go along with. It doesn't have any kind of a direction, so that's why it is called as a drift. So it has been found that allelic frequency can be changed randomly with the help of, or we can say that by a chance event. And in this chance event, what happens that a small group of individuals, they migrate from one place to another place. And when these small group of individuals, they migrate from one place to another place, they carry with them a very small set of alleles. Now, when these particular group of population, a small group of population, carry a very small alleles with them, and because of the interbreeding, the particular allele is selected, and this particular allele then give rise to a new kind of organism, or there may be chances of formation of a new kind of organism. Now, this, because of this movement, or we can say because of this genetic drift, the variability of alleles or allelic frequency that changes, and this is known as a genetic drift. Now, this particular effect is more prominent in a small population as compared to large population, because in a large population, whatever the allelic frequency change, that is diluted because of the large population. But in case of small population, with a small set of alleles, this particular difference can be seen. So here in this case, in that particular population, small population, some unique alleles are selected, and these unique alleles, or that may be, or these are unique alleles are fixed in a population. What do you mean by fixing of alleles in a population? That means these particular alleles are selected, these particular alleles remain in a population, and after they are inherited generation after generation. So this is known as a fixing of a particular kind of allele. So there may be chances of perishing of that particular population. There may be chances of the extinction of that particular population. But uh, this is a chance. So we cannot say that a particular kind of alleles will always be selected. So if selected, this shows a particular kind of trend, and that give rise to a speciation. So here, in case of genetic drift, there will be no any kind of direction, and it is always a random. Then here you will not find any kind of role of a natural selection. So, but still, it has a power to um, take that particular population into speciation, or we can say that towards speciation. So these are of two types. One is called as a founder effect, and another is called as a bottleneck effect. So that we will see. See, in case of a founder effect, you can see here parent population is there, and a small group of individuals from this parent population, they move from one place to another place where this particular individuals or this particular species is not there. So this is known as the founding population or a founder population. Now you can see here initial population, in initial population or in a parent population, the percentage of these particular alleles is 1 is to 3. But here, when this particular small population is migrated, or if we see the founder population, the individuals with a or a gene frequency here is a 2 is to 3. That means four individuals are from this particular green gene, and uh, six individuals is from this particular another gene. Now gradually, for after generations after generation, what happens that due to the environmental effect in this particular region, in this particular place, a particular kind of a allele is selected, and this particular kind of a allele is then increase in number. So again, in after few generations, you will find that gene frequency is now 9 is to 1, and later on this particular gene frequency is 10 is to 0. That means after founding population, after several generations, you will find a particular kind of a allelic frequency that increased, or that particular allele is fixed in a population, and that give rise to a new kind of organism which is different from the parent population. So this is known as a founder effect. This founder effect is observed by Darwin on Galapagos Islands in case of finches. So this is how that founder effect is there, and the main effect of this founder effect is that it decreases the variability of a population. So um, this is natural because very few individuals are migrated from this particular place to another place along with the very small set of alleles. So that's why the variability of that population decreases. Again, here we have seen that in a case of a genetic drift, or it is a type of a genetic drift, so that's why this is a purely a chance event, and no natural selection will act upon this particular effect. Now, this is a kind of or a second type of genetic drift. This is known as a bottleneck effect. It starts due to reduction in a population. Now, this reduction in a population is due to a bottleneck event. Now, this bottleneck event is a random event. It may be due to famine, it may be due to flood, it may be due to certain kinds of diseases, or it may be due to the human intervention, for example, excessive poaching. So, here the reduction in population that takes place, and because of that, very few individuals of that particular population survives. Now, as this is a random event, here we will find that natural selection is not there, or it will not act here, because we know that evolution takes place due to uh, change in the allelic frequency. Here also, because of this particular bottleneck event, the allelic frequency of original population has changed and very few individuals have survived. So here there will be a no natural selection, because natural selection is not acting here, only that particular bottleneck event is acting, and because of that change in the allelic frequency that took place, and this change in the allelic frequency can lead to a speciation. So Sewall Wright suggested that the without natural selection also evolution can take place, and this is the example of that um, evolution. So here also there is a decrease in the variability of the population, and this is known as a bottleneck effect. Now here there is a kind of a resemblance. See, in case of a bottleneck event, very few individuals are survived, and in case of founder effect also, you will find that the founder population that also starts with a very few kind of individuals. That is why it is called as a founder effect is the start of a bottleneck effect. So this is all about the bottleneck effect. Now the another factor here is a accessory factor is called as a migration. We know that different types of animals, for example birds, elephants, they move from one place to another place, and when they move from one place to another place, they carry with them a different set of alleles. Now these different set of alleles are mixed with the native population, and because of that, that native population now has a different set of alleles, or these alleles are added into their alleles. So this is how that genetic frequency that changes because of the migration. Now these changes in the migration, or we can say that when this such a type of a movement of alleles from one place to another place is known as a gene flow. So most of the organisms they show gene flow. For example, pollen grains or adult elephants. You must have seen that, or you must be aware of this particular or phenomenon in case of a herd of elephants, that whatever the male is, after a particular when he attains a particular age, that male elephant is driven out of the herd. Now this is for what? This is for actually this particular male elephant is removed from that herd, so that the inbreeding depression, that we call it as inbreeding depression, should be or can be avoided because of this. And this particular male then joins with the another herd, so that the variation in a population that can be maintained. So this is how that the gene flows from one herd to the another herd in case of elephants. So same is the case with the birds. Birds fly from one place to another place, so they carry along with them the newer alleles, and this is how that the gene flow is there. So this is known as a migration. The next point is a non-random mating. What happens in a non-random mating? When animals tend to select a mate, they prefer a mate from their own region, caste, community, creed, or a race. So such a kind of a mating in between the closely related individuals is called as a non-random mating. If this mating is done with the any kind of a individual, then it is called as a random mating. What happens in a random mating? In case of a random mating, the equilibrium, genotypic equilibrium is maintained. What is that genotypic equilibrium? We know that 25% of the homozygous dominant will be there, then 50% of the individuals will be heterozygous, and 25% of the individuals will be uh, homozygous recessive. So this type of a genetic equilibrium is maintained when that particular population is mating randomly. But in case of non-random mating, what happens that a particular kind of phenotypic characters are selected, and because of that, that particular genotypic equilibrium is disturbed. Mostly what happens that the recessive alleles that tend to increase in a population, and because of that, those individuals which are having such a type of homozygous recessive conditions, they will be eliminated from the population, and this is how that the allelic frequency that changes. Now we know that when allelic frequency changes, that means that particular population is going to evolve in a particular direction. So this is known as a non-random mating. The famous example of non-random mating is a mating between the pet animals. The breeder identifies a particular type of phenotypic characters in a pet, and he tends to mate the individuals which are having that particular phenotypic characters. So this is how that the breeder is responsible for bringing about a particular kind of race, or we can say that a breed from that particular population of pet animals. Now in case of a nature, what happens that, for example, a tiger from Maharashtra will mate only with the tigress from the Maharashtra only. It cannot move, or it cannot breed distantly placed tigress, which is, for example, which is in a Karnataka or Kerala. This is how that the animals which are placed in a particular region, they tend to mate with the individual which is in their own region. So this is known as a inbreeding depression, and inbreeding depression brings about the change in the allelic frequency. Now the next point is natural selection. As we have seen that the variations are added in a population. These variations are added through uh, genetic recombination or a mutation or a chromosomal rearrangement, like that. The variations are added in a population. Now these variations are now subjected to a quality control mechanism, because natural selection is a kind of a quality control mechanism. It selects only those kind of variations which have a positive value or a adaptive value or a survival value. So such kind of individuals which are having that advantageous traits that are selected, and those individuals which don't have that particular advantageous traits that are gradually eliminated from the population. Now, although we see that variations are random, but the natural selection is not random. So natural selection is also termed as a non-random preservation of random variations. So this is how that natural selection selects only those individuals which have advantageous traits. Now these selected individuals, they remain in a population, live up to the reproductive age, and then they reproduce and pass on their advantageous traits to the next generations. And this is how that particular organism, or we can say that that particular population that survives in a particular environment. So this is how that the natural selection works. And another point is that natural selection is a passive process. It is not active process. As we see that, or we call it as a selection of a particular kind of traits or advantageous traits in a population, but it is not so. A natural selection is a passive process where it acts upon only those individuals which are unfit for the particular survival, or those which individuals which don't have advantageous traits. So it is a kind of a passive kind of a process. Now the next point is a heredity. We know that when particular kind of characters that are passed on to next generation, that is called as a heredity. Now, if due to natural selection, whatever the organisms that are remaining, those have positive variations, and these positive variations, if they are transferred to the next generation, that next generation will be able to or can be able to survive in the population. So this is how that whatever the variations that are transmitted to the next generation, and this is how gradually that particular population acquires the positive variations. And this is the importance of heredity, that animals which possess helpful hereditary characteristics that are favored in a struggle for existence. Now the next point is isolation. Change in the allelic frequency that give rise to change in the phenotypic characters of the organism and genotypic characters of the organism of a population. Now, this phenotypic and genotypic changes that leads to different characters, and these characters are now different from their parent species. Now, along with that, different isolating mechanisms that also comes into place, and they prevent the interbreeding of these individuals. Now, what are those isolating mechanisms? Isolating mechanism means because of the difference in characters, difference in phenotypic characters. For example, in case of birds, the plumage differs, the colors of the plumage that differs, the song of the birds that differs. So this is how that these particular isolating mechanisms, they prevent the interbreeding of the individuals, and because of that these two populations gradually they depart from each other. And because of this prevention of interbreeding, separate population that develops, and this is known as a reproductive isolation. So this reproductive isolation that leads to formation of new species. So this is how the isolation that works, and it brings about the ultimate change in that particular population. Then this reproductive isolation, when or further it after several generations, this reproductive isolation brings about or develops a new kind of a species. This is known as a speciation. Now we will discuss about objections to modern synthetic theory. Renowned biologist, philosopher, evolutionist Stephen Jay Gould in 2002 stated that while describing modern synthetic theory, scientists have not taken into consideration the chance events. For example, we know that due to a catastrophic event in a Mesozoic era, that all the dinosaurs that were present on the earth that were wiped out, and because of that only mammals got the chance to flourish on the earth. So he is of the opinion that because of this particular chance event, we see diversity today is because of that particular chance event. And he further says that if we consider the history of earth as a tape, and if we rewind that particular tape and again replay it without any chance factor to operate, then the diversity that we will get today, that will be different from the today's diversity. So he is of the opinion that the chance events played an important factor in the history of Earth and evolution of different kinds of organisms on the Earth. So chance factor should be also taken in consideration for synthesizing any kind of evolutionary theory. Again, he is of the opinion that unlike evolutionary tree or the gradual evolution, He is of the opinion that evolution is a punctuated kind of evolution, and he is of the opinion that the organisms, they undergo sudden mutations and they change to another form. Then these changed species remains for some time, and then again it changes to another form due to mutation. So this is how the evolution is saltatory, like that, jumping like that, but it is not like the gradual evolution as modern synthetic theory suggests. Now another kind of objection that is raised by Stephen Jay Gould in 1940 about modern synthetic theory is extrapolationism. Now here Stephen Jay Gould is of the opinion that microevolution and macroevolution are two separate processes that should be decoupled from each other. But according to modern synthetic theory, microevolution is nothing but the part of a macroevolution. And modern synthetic theory is of the opinion that whatever the small changes that takes place in the allele or allelic frequency at a species level, that changes accumulate over a large period of a time, and these changes can be considered as a macroevolution, which is nothing but the changes at the higher levels, that is higher level than the species. So according to Stephen Jay Gould, this is known as a extrapolationism. He is of the opinion that when we study fossil evidences, we don't see any kind of gradual changes in the fossils. So saying that the gradual changes or microevolutionary changes that leads to macroevolution is a wrong notion, and because of that he called it as a, or he called it this process of making microevolution as a part of a macroevolution as a extrapolationism. He is of the opinion that macroevolution is a large scale changes that occurs above species level, and that is due to the mutation. So this is the objection that is raised by Stephen Jay Gould against the modern synthetic theory, and this is known as a extrapolationism. Now the famous philosopher Massimo Fillucci, he wrote a book on evolution. The name of that book was Evolution, the Extended Synthesis in 2010. And he is of the opinion that although the theory, modern theory of evolution is not wrong, but it is missing certain important factors, and that factors should be added to the new theory of evolution. Those factors are epigenetics, evolvability, phenotypic plasticity, reticulate evolution, horizontal gene transfer, symbiogenesis, or we can say that endosymbiosis, and evolutionary development. So all these factors should be added in a new theory of evolution, and he is of the opinion that a new theory should be created, including all those kind of Darwinian principles plus these major elements that are missing from the evolution theory. Now, all these major elements which are missing from the modern synthesis that we will discuss at length in another video. So, This is all about the major elements that are missing from the modern synthetic theory of evolution. So this is all about the modern synthetic theory. So thank you very much for patient hearing. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel Bamboo's Biogenius for latest uploads, or like my videos and comment. Thank you.